Hey, there we are. The red light's on. It means it's the Baco Motorsports Power Hour. I'm Mike Griffith, Bakersfield, Californian motorsports writer. Been doing this for almost 40 years now. Actually, 40 years because I freelanced. First story I ever did for the paper was a feature on James and Roger Coburn before the March meet in 1977, I believe.
Yeah. See, you've been in drag racing.
So I've been around it for quite a while. So. Got the first segment here. We got Blake Bowser from Auto Club Famoso Raceway in here. How you doing, Blake?
I'm doing good.
You're
surviving
doing well.
the heat. We're all getting through it.
Yeah, and we've got Jack Beckman. Fast Jack. Jack is going to call in a little bit and talk some drag racing for most of this segment. So that's good because usually we don't talk a lot of drag racing. A little bit every time they run. So anyway, we got some business to take care of before that. We got the American flag because we're America.
Yes, America.
Yeah. Change slides here. So we got a Derek Thorne. He'll be racing this weekend. The Southwest Tour is at Madera. So three-time champion there from Bakersfield in that series. And we will have the Fast Trip All-Area team. It will be our third annual team. That's coming out sometime in December. Yep. We don't have a date yet on that. 50 to 60 local drivers will honor for doing well in motorsports. So good little thing on them. Try to get their pictures in there and little synopsis of what they did during the season. I think we've already got about 25 drivers qualified for that. So
that's exciting.
Good deal. Had a big weekend of racing last weekend. Kentucky Speedway, NASCAR was there, and we've got some slides that Chris can show of that race there. That was the most exciting part right there. They dropped the green flag at Kentucky on the NASCAR race, and Martin Truex Jr. led two-thirds of the race, more than that, and came away with the win. Interesting thing there, repaved Kentucky, and they tried to make it more than a one-groove track. They used the tires. They put down what used to be VHT, now is it PJ1 or used to be VHT. They sprayed that. They dragged the Goodyear rubber on the track, and it was still basically a one-groove racetrack when aero push was horrible and it was very difficult to pass. So there you have it. That was NASCAR Kentucky. It was follow the leader parade for much of the race. The restarts were interesting because that's the only time you could really pass. Then it settled in there very, very difficult to pass. Just the nature of the way things are right now. And so I think the next slide is we got Truex celebrating, and then we probably got the points. But we're doing something else over there. So anyway, that was a race. The grandstands were fairly full for that race. Got Truex there. Kevin Harvick finished 9th. And okay, go ahead and show these leaders. Kyle Larson leads the way. Martin Truex. Those points really mean nothing. You have to look at the aggregate of what they've done. Their bonus points for leading the Cup Series into the championship chase, and that'll be Martin Truex Jr. Rainhouse caused a doubleheader again, so they ran the Xfinity Series that same day. Casey Mears finished 15th. Ryan Reed from Bakersfield got caught up in an accordion wreck at the beginning. Not everybody went, so there was kind of a freeway type accordion wreck. So Casey Mears. Ryan Reed finished 36th, I believe. And then Elliott Sadler still leads the points in that division, but William Bryan is actually the points leader because he's got more bonus points with 11. Justin Allgaier with 7. And then what else do we have? I think I have a picture of Elio Castroneves here. Yes. He dominated at Iowa Speedway, led most of the laps there. His first win in 3 years. And on the Formula One circuit, Valtteri Bottas led wire to wire, which is pretty normal in Formula One.
F1, yeah.
So, yeah, we're done with all that. And Jack Beckman, are you there?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me all right?
Oh, we can hear you. Thanks for calling in. Got Blake Bowser here from Auto Club Famoso Raceway with us. How are you doing, Jack?
Today is my little baby girl's 6th birthday, and I am sitting in the parking lot of my 10-year-old son's piano lessons right now. So, race car driver by weekend, normal dad during the week.
Yeah, and for anybody who doesn't do so, they should follow at Fast Jack Beckman at Twitter because you are a good follow. And real quickly, how's the El Camino coming?
It's up in Idaho. My buddy Neil is painting it. Don't ask me why I decided to take it 900 miles away for paint. Okay, if you're going to ask me why, Neil said he'd do it for free. And it's funny when this, Blake, gosh, this thing goes back. I've got pictures at Super Chevy
Yeah.
in 1991 at Bakersfield running the El Camino, and it was recently painted then. Pardon the ambulance going by. This is not for me, trust me, guys.
That's good to hear.
And this rebuild was basically just to put it back on the street. You know, I had got the car from my dad in 1981 before I even turned 16. The car had been in storage for 3 years. I hadn't started it in 20 years. You never have a last race with the car intentionally. It just gets parked. So I want to put it back on the street. So like a typical hot rod guy, this simple project of putting the sway bars back on and taking all the drag race stuff off of it has turned into a complete ground-up, frame-off rebuild. And I've got a lot of help from a lot of great companies, so I can keep the money down at a reasonable level and have a really nice, kind of like a power tour car when I'm done with it.
There you go.
Well, that's going to be nice and a lot of fun, and that's your normal away from the racetrack, gardening and working on your El Camino and all the kids and stuff. But at the track, this had to be a pretty emotional weekend for you with the passing of Terry Chandler, who has funded your car and the Make-A-Wish car of Tommy Johnson for the past few years. How was this weekend?
Well, it wasn't just this weekend. Let me back up for a little bit. Terry had flown out in April for the Las Vegas race, but never made it to the racetrack. And that was the first hint that we knew something was wrong, but you never think when something's wrong that it's necessarily the worst possible thing it could be. And I just feel like she got cheated, because from the time of her diagnosis till she passed away on the 4th of July, which I find ironic for a woman that does so much for our military, I don't know that she had a whole lot of quality of life. So the only silver lining, and I think that the takeaway from this is, I think the last 3 years of her life at the races might have been some of the best years of anybody's life. And Don Schumacher and his wife Sarah and daughter Megan flew back Saturday from the races in Chicago to New Mexico to attend the funeral. And they both told me, they said, you know, we knew how important racing was to her, or at least we thought we did. We didn't have a clue. A lot of her friends that had never been to a drag race thanked them for improving her life so much. So I think that's something that can keep us propped up, because it's definitely it's beyond a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I guess I thought of Terry kind of as an aunt. You know, just a wonderful person, had a great sense of humor, didn't want the spotlight shined on her, would get pissed at you in the most wonderful ways if you tried to give her too much attention. And I guess I just never thought that would end, or she would go out gracefully, not see her for 3 months and lose her before we could ever say goodbye in a proper manner.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, the backstory is Terry Chandler has sponsored the Make-A-Wish car and the Infinite Hero car, your car, for the past few years out of her own pocket, and the goodness of her heart, just to draw attention to these needy charities. And for you, you're a former sergeant in the Air Force. You're a cancer survivor, so this had to really hit home to you in multiple ways.
I can't say it any better than you just did. Yeah, she was very successful in business and had a heart larger than anybody I have ever met in my life, and wanted to make a difference. So she gave a car to all the children and their families of Make-A-Wish to make special moments for those folks. And then she saw what the Infinite Hero program was doing for the injured vets and said, I have to be involved in that too. I have to help these injured vets get back to whatever their new lives are going to be like. And those weren't the only two charities she was involved with, guys. Back in her home state of New Mexico, she did a ton of things for disadvantaged children. And, I mean, she literally changed thousands of lives, including mine. Let's be honest about this. It's tough to find sponsorship in drag racing. Nitro drivers are a lot like spark plugs. You can use them up and throw them out. There's a long line of unemployed drivers. I'd have been back fixing elevators 3 years ago if it hadn't been for Terry stepping up.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, the question I say, who does this these days? You never hear about anybody, and we've known it in drag racing circles, how good she's been for years, but who does this? I mean, it's just mind-blowing to think that she did this.
You're right. You're absolutely right. You know, and I did an interview with Doug Herbert a couple months ago, right after she was diagnosed, and we didn't know what the outcome was going to be at that time. But I made a comment. I said, I guess even saints aren't bulletproof.
Yeah.
But she might even go beyond that level. You know, we put the moniker angel on a lot of people. Well, I think if you looked it up at the true definition, boy, Terry Chandler fits about all the criteria for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys went on. You know, you've been dealing this for a while. Went on and race, and it comes down to the final in funny cars between teammates, your teammates, Tommy Johnson in the Make-A-Wish car, and Ron Capps. What were you thinking on the line? Ron Capps comes away with a pretty close victory in that race, but it seems like just a win for Terry Chandler and the whole Don Shoemaker team and everybody involved.
Well, I stood in the wrong place. In hindsight, I stood behind Tommy Johnson's car. I think I should have stood in front of Ron Capps' car. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that might have been something. And Ron was very emotional and down there at the top end after the win. And he said he swears he looks over and there was Terry Chandler standing off to the side. I mean,
yeah, but you know what? I think that goes to show something about the integrity of Don Schumacher Racing. There are no team orders. Let's be honest. In any situation with any team, I think everybody would have completely understood if that Napa car idled down the track and give the win to Make-A-Wish, right? Give that win to Terry Chandler. But listen, the bigger picture here is all of us love and miss Terry Chandler dearly. I think Ron did an admirable job of vocalizing his feelings after the run. But that's a team that came to win, and Terry would have accepted nothing less. We did not go to her funeral on Saturday. We could have flown out with Dawn and Megan and Sarah Schumacher, but Terry's brother Johnny said, you guys know Terry's going to be upset looking down at this if her cars don't go out there and make the qualifying run on Saturday. And he was right. And Terry would have expected nothing less than a heads-up race and both teams giving it their best effort. And that's what makes drag racing so exciting. There's one winner and there's one loser. And you don't need a master's degree in economics to figure out the point system like NASCAR's gone to lately.
Well, that's true. Hey, Jack, can you hang on for a couple of minutes and be around for the next segment?
Thanks,
okay,
Jack.
we've got to take a little break here, run some other stuff, and we'll be back in a few minutes with the Auto Club Famoso Raceway segment on the Power Hour.